The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by the Elite Experience, Elite Shotguns, and is fueled by Fiocchi.
Paul?
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast, coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays.
Guy Fieri.
How are you, gentlemen? Thanks for having me.
Anthony Matarese Jr., how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well.
Welcome back, David Radulovich.
That's a net positive 30 minutes. Brad Kidd.
Corey Cruz, thank you for joining us this evening.
Now I feel awkward.
With your hosts, Jason
One
Rambo
more Red Bull for you.
and Sean Alley.
Woo, yeah!
Christmas.
Let's do it!
Often imitated but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast. And now, it's showtime.
What's up, Mr. Large and in charge?
Well, we are back here in studio after surviving another night shoot at Cardinal.
And the torrential downpours of San Antonio.
Yep.
Man, so much has taken place since last time we were in here.
Dude, it's only been a couple weeks, but yeah, you're right. A lot of things.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. We're going to have Neil Chadwick on here in just a couple of minutes. Just got a text from him. He's getting ready to go here. A lot of exciting things coming up. So, just so everyone knows, we were included in the Fiocchi and BNP protein meeting that they do every year, and there's a lot of exciting information coming. Sorry to tease you, I can't talk about it just yet, but we're going to have the new CEO of Fiocchi USA come on the podcast with us and talk about some of these things. But a lot of exciting things coming for Fiocchi and BNP. A lot of big company changes coming, and it's exciting, Sean.
Yeah, definitely. That meeting was very eye-opening, and wow, yeah, the word exciting is definitely the one to use.
Yeah, I've sat through, being a superintendent in large construction companies, I've sat through dozens of meetings, and I've never been as excited as I was.
Yeah, they had a lot. They had a lot to say
about what's coming. So, really cool stuff there. Hey, speaking of exciting, if y'all remember when we had Blaze Whitehead and Sean Kimmerer on the program, Blaze had mentioned that he was sponsored by Taconic Distilleries, and they were kind enough to send us a couple bottles to sample. And I'm going to tell you what right now. As we speak, I am sampling this double barrel maple bourbon, and Sean's working on their straight bourbon whiskey, and this stuff is just dangerously good, Sean Alley.
Yes, it is.
It is outstanding. So, big shout out to them. Check them out online, Sean Alley. Is it taconicdistillery.com?
Yeah,
it's
you spell it Taconic, Taconic Distillery. They've got an online store. You can actually order their products on there. Again, big thanks to those guys for sending us a sample. Of course, we like to have a nice bourbon with a podcast. Everybody knows that, and we love it, actually.
Yeah, this is really good.
That maple one is really interesting. It's not as sweet as I thought it would be, and it's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, it fits the bill. Let's say that for sure. But big thank you to them. Big thank you to Blaze Whitehead for giving us a punch on that one. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, guys, check them out, man. They're really cool. Not a sponsor of the show or anything. They were just kind enough to send us a sample, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, another thing, Jason, we need to remind everybody the Dead Pair buggy, the raffle.
Yes.
We need to make sure everybody's going there and checking that out. Tickets are $20 each and $6 for $100. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's correct. And that's at www.deadpair.givesmart.com.
Yeah, and the buggy's going to be down at Vero. For the inaugural Dead Pair Blast, and then we're going to be drawing the winner at the
Caribbean Cup
in February. So yeah,
exciting stuff there. Hey, speaking of the Dead Pair Blast, man, we have got numbers. Just looked this morning. We're just over 200 shooters. And why that's important to all of you is because there's $50 back to class in both the prelim and the main, and that is automatic with your entry. You don't have to pay extra for class option or anything like that. Your entry automatically qualifies you for that money. I cannot remember how we're breaking down the payout, Sean. I think it's top 3 in each class.
I believe so.
Is how we're doing that. But, man, you think about that. $50 back to class. That's with over 200 people, it's over $10,000.
Right. On top of the regular.
On top of the regular money. So, I mean, this is, I hope everybody's, thinking about coming down anyway. It is our inaugural. We're already making big plans. We haven't even got this one off the ground. We're already making big plans for next year and the coming years. I know that Vero and Elite are very excited about this, and they're wound up, man. They're already making big plans.
And not to mention, this is going to be their grand opening for the new clubhouse.
Yep, this is the big reveal.
That place is gorgeous. We're going to have the Dead Pear patio on the back end, have some drinks that Fiocchi's sponsoring on Friday night. So
that's right.
Everybody that's coming down is going to have a great time, I guarantee it.
Yeah, so everybody, real quick, check this out. So Vero Beach is giving back yet again. They're going to have dinner available free.
Nice.
Not charging, Friday and Saturday night.
Wow.
Of course, Barrel Pallet is giving the gun socks for first place in each class. Fiocchi is sponsoring the cocktail hour on Saturday nights. We'll have an open bar if you're old enough to participate in that. And then Atlas Traps has donated a little AT-50 recreational trap that's going to be given away, random draw, from an entrant. And this is based on your entry. RE Ranger donated 2 pairs of glasses, 2 T-shirts and hats, a little swag pack.
Yep.
This is huge. Rhino Chokes has donated barrel porting, chokes, and a gun fitting. Again, random draw to someone.
Yep.
Who am I missing here, Sean? Odo Pro Technologies. This one is huge.
This one just came in.
Yeah. $1,700 pair of Phantoms.
Right.
Custom fit Phantoms. Somebody's going to walk away with those.
Yeah, that's the sweet prize right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's really cool. I mean, all of our sponsors have stepped up big time to help out with this. We cannot.
And don't
thank
forget
them
Jamie
enough.
Dolinar. He's going to be sponsoring
JD's Watch Repairs sponsoring the Feed Task.
Yes, the Feed Task. That's what it is.
A very big thank you to JD, man. That's awesome. We really appreciate that. So, hope to see everybody down there. In the short-term interim, we've got some good, we've got some bad, and we've got some ugly to talk about from the Nationals.
Yep.
Mr. Neil Chadwick is going to join us, and we're gonna chat about all that, Sean Alley. And I have a lot I want to say.
Well, there was a lot going on. There was a lot of things being talked about. So let's see what he has to say.
Let's see what the man himself has to say about it. So y'all hang with us. We'll be right back with Mr. Neil Chadwick. The Dead Pair. All right, Neil, let's try not to get in too much trouble. Welcome to the show, Neil Chadwick. How are you, buddy?
Good, thanks, Jason. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Great, Neil. It was great catching up with you down in Texas. Hope things have been going well for you since then.
Yep. Yeah, been down to Florida since then, again in the nice sunny weather as opposed to up here, putting a course in for a private company down there.
Oh, nice. Well,
awesome.
we just got done shooting the Pilgrim Shoot at Night up at Cardinal this weekend. It wasn't as bad as it has been in the past, but it was still chilly. So
I can promise you it wasn't Florida weather, Neil.
Yeah, I guarantee it wasn't Florida weather.
Well, Neil, I started off with saying let's not get in too much trouble, but we want to talk about the Nationals and do a review as we promised everyone. If you would, we had a record number of new entrants this year and a record number overall attendance. So if you could tell us what kind of preparation you had to do going into the Nationals, like the weeks leading up, because of this, new influx of shooters.
Yeah, well, and it's just the way things turn out. I mean, we were there the complete week prior to the Saturday start. And believe it or not, we couldn't have had better weather. It was sunny all week. It was, temperatures mid-80s, 90s. I mean, it was just super weather. So I kept an eye on the weather, and I knew it was going to probably change. I didn't realize it was going to change as much as it did. The long-term weather said that the wind would be directly out the south for basically all of the shoot. So I was happy about that. That allowed us to understand what our targets were going to do and so forth like that. The attendance was up at that point at about 2450 plus. So putting targets out, Pete and his crew, and you know that on the main event, each machine has a full pallet or had a full pallet of, what's on a full pallet? 63
cases.
63 cases of standards. Of course, rabbits and middies vary. And for the first time ever, we had to add 6 boxes on top of that. So you know how many targets we had to put out, which was just as a number, just over 2.3 million.
Wow. That's a lot of targets.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Neil, what else? I mean, leading up to it, anything else that you had to change or any other challenges you had to overcome before the shoot got going that, typically you wouldn't have to deal with, or was it pretty much status quo?
Well, no, the few changes that we made as we went into it, i.e. putting Super Sporting where K-Cup was, putting K-Cup where Super Sporting was, I was a bit worried initially to get 13 stations in along that road on the south-facing side of what we call the Dozen. That's where the lower skeet fields are, and it's called the Dozen because there's 12 skeet fields there. But after looking at it and setting out the cages, 13 stations really fit in there quite good and allowed us to put on some really good fun targets for the K-Cup. And likewise with the 410-28, which was on the north side and all on skeet fields, I was a little bit apprehensive about getting 13 stations in there. But I'm guessing that a lot of people noticed we used a lot of fences to, block machines, but the fences were a lot closer to the shooting stands, giving a different perspective of the target appearance, and actually gave us more room to get stations a little bit closer together. So that helped. So we had a lot more fences to put up, of course, But apart from that, it was sort of, as we've done in years past, obviously get 442 machines out and placed, get them staked down, set the targets, get targets staged by them, get flagging up for safety, all the regular stuff that we do nationals every year,
Yeah, one of the things I liked is you guys, first of all, I liked where you put the FETASC, which is where the Super Sporting was last year. And then the course that the Super Sporting was on, that's my favorite part of the whole property. That wood section, that's definitely my favorite part. And I thought that made for some really cool presentations back there. That was awesome. Talk about that just for a second, Neil, before we dive into everything else. The target difficulty, or whatever you want to call it, really this year, I mean, this is my third year being there. It seemed like it was more creative, and it also seemed like maybe just a teeny tick harder than what it usually is.
And you're actually correct in some aspects. The main courses were actually a little bit more difficult, but only just. And looking at the numbers, all the other courses were, in my opinion, a lot easier than they were last year. And I'm talking about all the other events, not the main event.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay, so when someone comes to me, Neil, and they say, I got good news and I got bad news, which one you want first? I always want the bad news. I always want something good to cheer me back up from being kicked. So we're going to start with the bad news. and I know we might have to give you some extra tape here on this one, but what went wrong? Let's talk about the stuff that went wrong at Nationals. Let's get that out of the way.
Okay, well, you start.
Well, all right, let's take the obvious. I mean, obviously, you can't control Mother Nature. And I don't know if there was anything that you want to mention prior to the rain that we had. So I'll give you an opportunity there if you want to say anything. And if not, then the rain came along. And now Jason's been there 3 years. I had to skip last year, so this was actually my second year. We've never been to the Nationals when the rain came down like it did. I was very surprised at the amount of rain that came down. But I have to ask the question, this has got to have happened before at some point, or there has to have been some precedent for this amount of rain to have hit the course. If not at the Nationals, other events that they've had there at the facility, correct?
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. Now bear in mind that this was my 28th year down there setting targets for Nationals. And in recent years, we seem to have got more rain. I cast my mind back to, when was it, April, when we had the Texas State. Well, the rain came down so hard, I'd never seen anything like it anywhere with that one. Wind blew cages over, blew all the toilets over, broke cages, and I don't know what the amount of inches was that we had, but we had rain there. Fortunately, last Nationals, a year ago, I don't think we had any rain, did we?
Right.
No, and nor the year before.
I think, now, from what I've heard, Neil, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, I think from what I heard, 2015 was the last National that it rained like this.
That's correct. Yeah, that's when it was a remnants of, I believe, a hurricane that, did it come out the Pacific side or out the Gulf side? One or the other, but yeah, we got a lot of rain. So much so that, again, the area that gets flooded, which is the creek that comes from the gas road side and winds through and ends up splitting the FITAS course and goes under 471, that is prone to flooding when they get those heavy downpours that cause those flash floods. And when we get rain like that, it takes about half an hour for the water to come from the developments to the west across that gas road crossing. And in Texas State there, that came up so deep that we couldn't allow golf carts across there. The bigger ones, the four-wheel drives, and that got across there, but the regular golf carts, we didn't allow them across because we were worried they'd get washed off the side. So,
oh, jeez.
But the weather patterns just recently in past years seem to be changing, and we've all heard it before. I'm guessing this is due to global warming and stuff like that. But as a rule, you're right. Most of the years we might have a shower, but not the rain that we saw come down to such a degree as we did this year, all in one go.
Well, I had someone make the comment to me that, well, you don't understand Texas and the dirt and the soil, and they're absolutely incorrect, because as someone that spends their life working in the dirt, I know quite well Texas soil because I had a business there, and I worked everywhere from Uvalde to Hondo to clear up north of Dallas-Fort Worth, clear up by Texarkana, down to Corpus Christi, all over Houston, and clear down by Galveston. So I've got a little bit of a gauge on the soil of Texas, and I know that there's things that can be done. There's drainage that can be put in. There's, aggregate that can be put down, pavement that can be put down. So my question to you, Neil, is we saw great improvements around the National Shooting Complex. Those gun racks, which hats off to Mr. Spikes, Larry Spikes, those gun racks are awesome. And I think any club that's looking for some needs to get a hold of him and get some. But maybe did we need to spend that money on gravel for the shooting stage? I mean, I'm just asking the question, Neil, and I'm not trying to give sharp criticism. I'm trying to give constructive criticism in my question. Is, did we maybe not spend in the right direction? I don't know. What can we do to prevent calf-deep running water to a station? You know where I'm going with that. I think everybody in the world has seen that video. So
you're talking about Green 9, aren't you?
No comment.
Well, I will take this opportunity to apologize to every shooter that had to stand in that water on Green 9 for probably 20 minutes to half an hour while it ran off. I'd never seen anything like it. That was totally my fault. I was too engrossed in the target from the right-hand side going over the top of that domed bush in front, and that's why I put that stand there, not ever dreaming we were going to get rain like we did.
Right.
We did put stone in that stand, but again, I apologize to everybody. That was totally my fault. It was just something that I didn't think about of the 1,001 things that I have to think about during the competition. But now, having said that, you've got to understand, and you said that you've worked down there. Well, they hadn't had any rain for 6 months. They had a little bit of rain during the World Skeet, so I understand, but nothing like that we saw during the Nationals. So having weeks on end of temperatures over 100 degrees, you could see, and and we saw it down there the week prior, there's no grass in some areas.
Right.
You get that amount of rain on that type of dirt, and especially down there on green and where it just got sloppy, the ground is so hard it cannot absorb the water. So you get the first inch, 2 inch, gradually more absorb the water, and just turns into that pasty, sticky
snot
mud. That's what it is. Now, okay, so let's step back. Okay, what can we do about it? Okay, now I've heard people say, and I've spoken to a lot of people, and a lot of people have called me, and I agree. Vendor Row was a disgrace. Could we have done something about it prior? Yes and no. Believe it or not, we put a lot of stone. Pete ordered 6 or 7, I'm going to call them triaxles, whatever you call them, loads of stone, and you could see it before we got the rain, especially down on K-Cup, where Pete had spread it out and made a really good, almost like a roadway, down the K-Cup event, which was fine until you get 300 or 400 buggies running over it with it wet underneath, and the stone just disappears and the dirt comes up through it. But if we look at the Vendor Row thing, I think that really needs the powers to be to step up to the plate and go, okay, we've got to do something about it, and we've got to fix it. I'm not a civil engineer. You're more of a civil engineer than I am, Jason, and you probably got ways to do it and channel the water and do whatever it does, but that could be fixed. So then that begs another question. Okay, we've fixed that. Now that's going to stay dry. The water will run off and drain however it's done, but we've still got 300 buggies driving up and down. So, okay, what else do we fix? If you wanted to fix the whole thing, you'd have to pave the whole lot, because look at all the buggies that are in the cart parking area, and that was just mud as well. So they take their buggies down there, get in the car, go back to the hotel for an evening. The buggies are caked with mud. Now they drive up Vendor's Row. If it was all concrete up there, it's going to be just as dirty, and with the rain, it's going to be not as muddy, but you're still going to get mud up there.
Well, we talked to several people on Vendor Row, some of the other, the vendors themselves, and a lot of them actually, at its worst, they actually started turning people away from coming inside their building because people were tracking in so much mud, and those places are really nice. All the vendors have done a nice job with having a nice location there on Vendor Row, and some of them started closing their doors and not allowing people to come in and different things of that nature just because they were tracking in so much mud. I mean, yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, Neil, as far as that goes, but I also know that had that been at the very minimum, had that been done correctly with gravel, at least you would have a solid base, because I know there was ruts going all the way up and down Vendor Row, and the more that people drove up and down it, the worse it got. That led to the problem of tracking more and more and more. If you had asphalt or concrete, that would be great, because even if the buggies are muddy, it's still a solid surface. You can get out and walk and avoid some areas, but it just seemed like it was a no-win situation with as much mud that the area out front of Vendor's Row was having people drive through. Golf carts were getting stuck. The 4x4 side-by-sides weren't having much problem, but they, with their big all-terrain tires, were chewing up the ground even more and causing more mud. So I just think that after talking with some of the vendors, the feeling we get is that something's going to have to be done there one way or the other, because otherwise you're going to get a lot of people in there. They're going to get their shops ruined with people tracking in that amount of mud should this happen again, right?
I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Sean. The people in Vendor's Row support our sport. They are the most important people probably at the shoot, apart from the competitors, of course. But they support us, and I think we need to do something along that. Now, what it is, I don't know. Like I say, I'm not a civil engineer, but I'm sure something could be done to stop that muddy mess, and I'm sure the skeet people would like it. I'm guessing that it's different for the skeet people because they don't have the number of buggies, four-wheelers, ATVs that we do. I'm assuming, and I don't know because I wasn't there, that the rain that they had during the World Skeet, it was wet, but I probably wasn't dug up as much as we did because they don't use the buggies like we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the ultimate solution, there's a company out there called Clay Range Design Works, LLC, and if you'll give me a call, I'll be more than happy to give an estimate. Listen, I make a joke, but at the same time, I'm serious. It all costs money, okay? So I guess, the question I have for you, Neil, and you're more ingrained, obviously, with the NSCA and the NSC than Sean and I could ever dream of being, but do you feel that this is something that, within the budgets, whether it's marketing, whether it's advertising, whatever, that they divert funds? Do you think the NSC and the NSCA are going to make an effort to, alleviate this problem moving forward? I guess is what the question is.
Well, that's a question that the EC and the NSSA board will come up with now. And you were at the delegates meeting, and you did hear Michael say that they're going to widen that path behind the stadium because that's always a pinch point there. So whatever work they're going to do there, are they going to budget to do something the length of Vendors Row, asphalt or concrete, whatever it might be, out to, let's say, the 27-yard line behind the trap fields. That would encompass the whole width then from the vendor doorway to the skeet fields.
Yeah. That would definitely be a big help. I mean,
it would. It totally would. It would not stop what we saw on the rest of the courses.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's a Band-Aid on a heart attack. I mean, we need to open the arteries.
Yeah, and along that line, Neil, let me ask this question, and this was brought up no less than 100 times.
Oh boy, here we go.
So, me and Jason shot the K-Cup on, was it Thursday, Jason, or Friday?
I don't remember.
It was either Thursday or Friday after the torrential downpour, and that area probably was the hardest hit, if not one of the hardest hit areas, and it was an absolute mess down there to try to shoot. I remember going to the K-Cup, and I was up first, and I walked into a station with about 4 or 5 inches of water and another 3 or 4 inches of mud below that. So I was basically standing over my ankles in water in the station to shoot. Now, they have these PVC cages that everybody shoots out of, and when weather's dry and the ground is dry, they're great. But up here in Ohio, and also a lot of the other places we shoot at, they've moved on to an enclosed shoot house. Cardinal has, I would say, probably the largest ones I've been into. You could probably put 10 or 12 people inside those. They're almost like a small deck or canopy.
Like a gazebo.
Gazebo. Metal roof. They got a little porch on the front that you shoot off of. But we've also got them at Eagles Nest. We've got them at Hillendale. We've got them at Airport Ridge. And then the other places we shoot at, like Jack Link's, all enclosed shoot houses. Vero Beach has enclosed shoot houses. So why hasn't the NSCA, NSSA considered investing in a shoot house of some kind? Number one, for safety reasons, because obviously if a storm comes along, lightning or whatever comes along, people could get out of the weather under something safely, especially when you're out in those remote areas so far away from cover. And then number two, the stability, the footing. I mean, it's a disadvantage to people if you got to stand in the mud and slip and slide, which I almost fell a couple times, and I saw dozens of other people doing the same thing. It's got to be some kind of a safety consideration to be able to have solid, flat footing when you're trying to shoot targets with a loaded gun. I mean, it just seems kind of obvious to me, and I'm not trying to make a huge nasty point about it, but just seems like it's almost a common sense thing that's been totally overlooked.
Well, you make a couple of valid points there. My answer to your first question is, why do I want to spend a ton of money making whatever they've got, Cardinal covered shoots, covered stands rather, when at max they're only going to be used twice a year.
Okay. I can see
you
that.
You got to understand that the PVC, we move them every year. So typically down there we have 2 big shoots a year. Now they've got other shoots and SCTP, other shoots where they get a lot of people, but they don't use, for example, where the K-Cup was. They will use where we call it the red course, where super sporting was. They'll use that, and obviously they'll use the skeet fields and the trap fields and stuff like that. But typically they're used twice a year. Texas State, April, Nationals. When it's not Texas State and we get it around, it will be World English. Now next year there is nothing. We've got no major tournaments until Nationals of next year. So those PVC stands are easy to move. You can load them all on a trailer. Their guys will put them up and store them wherever they store them until they're next needed.
Okay.
So I look at the cost benefit of doing it. Would it be nice? Yeah, of course it would. I would love covered stands and slatted things to shoot off of. Now, safety, you've got to look at that a little bit differently. We put out a tremendous amount of mulch. Now, whether it was out in time for you to shoot, I don't know. But we got extra loads of mulch in. We put gravel in stands to try and give some sort of stable surface to shoot on. So was it good enough? In some instances, yes, and it was adequate. In other instances, no. We tried to cover all our bases with to make the shooting stable, safe to stand in, and I think we did pretty good at it for most of it. Yes, Green 9, you couldn't put anything down there to stop that water. I take that, and I will again take full responsibility for that one. But a lot of the other stands, especially down on there on K-Cup, where we had mulch, there was the gravel that we put out, and you can see on the property the amount of gravel that's been put out before, where shooting stands have been, is still there in the grass. I mean, it's in the mud, but you can still see it. So I'm saying we try our best to make it comfortable for the shooters to shoot in.
Quick question, Neil. Do you know what's the PVC shoot stands that you guys have? What is the footprint? Do you know of the area that you actually, the box that you stand in? Is it 3x3, 4x4, something like that?
It's 4. It's 4 across the front. Depth wise, it's a little bit longer than it is wide, but it's close to being square. So if I said 4x4, that would be close enough, I think, Sean.
Okay. Well, okay, so like an idea at the bare minimum, what if we built just small little platforms that we could drop into those existing shoot houses to shoot off of? And that way, if something does come along, I mean, that would be a very minimal expense. I mean, you're talking about some treated, 2x4s, 2x6s, build a small, like, miniature deck that you could stand on, maybe have $40-50 in each one of them. And if you don't use them when the ground is dry, fine, they can sit there. But if and when a big rain comes, you just pick those things up, drive them out on a truck, drop them in each one of the cages, and at least a shooter could stand in the box on a solid surface and feel like they had safe, secure footing. Would that be reasonable? Yeah,
I think that's a brilliant idea. Something like a pallet or something like that.
Yeah, Sean, just like a deck type structure, maybe like 2x6s around the side or 2x8s around the side. That way, if you do have thick mud or you got some water in the stand, it gets the shooter's feet up above that water in the mud, and it reduces the ability for your feet to slip. I mean, there were some people trying to brace their feet up against the outside edges and standing on those PVC pipes. There was other people trying to balance on the very front edge. I mean, just to try to get out of the mud, because the front half of the K-Cup was so bad in most cages, they were either full of mud or full of water. So even if you were wearing just regular boots, they were ruined after the first 1 or 2 stations. So
I think that's a good idea because they would be easy to store. They could be used as and when required.
Right.
They would have to be slatted so that the mud that you picked up on your feet as you got to the stand, as that dropped off your boots, would drop through a grate so that it didn't accumulate in the stand. Otherwise, it'd be a waste of time.
Sure. No, absolutely.
So let me throw this out there, Neil, if I could. I'm sorry, sir. Were you going to say something else?
I was going to say, I think we need to get the Man in Black on board with that and get some funds allocated to see what can be built. I mean, I think that's a brilliant idea. It would save buying mulch. It would save putting stone in the stand, although we tend to put stone in the stands initially anyway. But you know who I mean by the Man in Black, don't you?
Not Johnny Cash. We know.
Well, I guess this is my... let me give another perspective or another point of view on this, Neil, and I think you'll back me on this. Whether it's in an inclusive, expensive shooting station, whether that's permanent, I understand it's only used twice a year, whether it's something like what you and Sean are talking about here. I'm not saying we need flowers at each station like the PSCA, but this is our national championship. This is not only the biggest shoot in this nation, this is the biggest shoot in the world. I think it should be, and this is just my own opinion, and I'm sorry, I'm probably going to get in trouble. Somebody's not going to like me for this, and I apologize in advance.
Not the first time, not going to be the last time, Jason.
Exactly.
So
my point is I think that we should not be standing in mud or water to shoot the national championship. I understand we can't control Mother Nature, but I think there's preventative measures that can be done, not spend millions of dollars, but I think Neil, back me up here. I'm kind of talking and you're being quiet and you're scaring me, but it's there's got to be something that can be done. This is this is the most prestigious shoot that we have in our country, if not the world.
Yes.
He said yes.
That wasn't the response I was looking for, Neil, but okay, that's good enough. I'll take it. So.
Yeah, and I hear where you're going with it. Okay. The sport is an outdoor sport, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't have something to stand on. I totally agree. But, any shoot that I go to, I take my wet weather gear and a pair of boots.
Yes.
The number of people I saw that didn't have wet weather gear or didn't have boots, I mean...
Well, let me throw this at you, Neil, okay? This is just another point of view, and if we have to, we'll edit this out. I left a sport called the NMRO, which was the National Mud Racing Organization. Pro stock trucks that raced in the mud.
Right.
There were not cars and pickup trucks stuck in the parking lot. There were not golf carts stuck in the parking lot. We're walking around with $10,000, $15,000, $50,000 firearms. And for a guy to have to stop and clean 4 inches of mud out of the end of the chokes of his gun because he almost fell down and he was in knee-deep mud or whatever, I think there's something we can do to prevent this problem moving forward. All right, Neil, so aside from the mud in the torrential downpours, another negative, and you and I ran into you out on the course right before Sean and I were getting ready to shoot on Saturday, was the long rotation times. Talk about what went wrong there. Why did that create such a problem?
Typically, I like to have 80 at a max on a rotation on the mains. Obviously, there's 10 stations, and they load us up with A and B squads, 4 to each squad, which gives us 80 shooters. And the I'm going to call it the super squad rotations, and it affected all 4 courses. Had 90, one dropped out, and I think we ended up with 89. And you go, well, it's just 9 shooters, makes a big difference. For a start, we have to load some of the machines then through during the flight. So on a 10-station course shooting 75 birds, you've got 2 stations that throw 3 pairs. They're fine. They will last. All the machines hold 400 targets apart from rabbits, which hold less. The 9 extra shooters meant that we had to fill the majority of machines during the flight, which is, I just hate doing it because it stops everybody.
Right.
So typically, and the guys did a fantastic job. They sort of nipped in and out, but nevertheless, if there's a machine out in front and you've got to stop the station to the left of you and the station to the right so that somebody can get out to fill the machine to be safe, whether it's 3, 4, 5 minutes, we've lost that time. And that happened all the way through. Even the last Super Squad on the Sunday, we filled machines. I had to stop the Super Squad so that we could load machines, just so they didn't run out. I didn't want somebody to be shooting and up to their last pair and the machine run out of targets. So I stopped it between the 1A and 1B squad so that we could run out there. Unfortunately, we got it covered, and it took about 60 seconds. But that's what caused any delays during those rotations.
Well, Neil, we were both out there during the Super Squad filming and doing that stuff. Was there anything else that, and this will be the last of the negative stuff, anything else that you thought went wrong or didn't go the way you had planned it during the Super Squad rotation at the end?
No. That last one, I mean, apart from it getting really, it's just when the Super Squad started, that wind changed from south-southeast through to almost north. And, I mean, while they were shooting, I had to put my rain gear on, although it wasn't raining at that time, funnily enough. But just to keep warm, I mean, it just got bitterly cold.
Oh, man, it dropped fast.
It did. It did. And it was funny, really, because I looked at when the Super Squads shot and all the rain, the Super Squads missed it. That was the worst weather the Super Squads had to shoot in, funnily enough.
Yeah.
But no, there was nothing else really apart from that 89, 90 people on that squad that just made it run slower. But the Super Squads made up for it a little bit because they were all fast shooters, relatively. Some of them weren't, but
no names mentioned, Neil. No names mentioned.
we put and just for the record, we had to give a caution to 3 shooters for going over the 20 seconds during the Super Squad.
Did you really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hey, let's move on to the positive aspect. And speaking of that, Neil, I'm a very firm believer that there's a positive in every negative. It got cold, it got dark, and it got extremely windy on Sunday. And the positive in that is it tested the shooters to the best of their ability to overcome and adapt. And, of course, Brandon came out on top. But, it really, the conditions themselves really tested the shooters on Sunday. Brandon was in a lightweight shirt and shorts, and I remember him coming up to me on Station 7 going, "Man, it got cold." I'm like, "Dude, you dressed really wrong." And he goes, "Well, it was 80 degrees when we started." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like 60 right now." And the wind was blowing, and it was overcast. Speaking of which, on a positive note, I've got to give a shout out to your crew, Neil. I forget what station it was on. It was on Sunday during the Super Squad. It was one of the final stations. You said, "Hey, look, we got to take a quick break, and they're going to run out and fill traps." Were those 400 target machines?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
and that was
watched.
Right.
Go ahead.
I'm going to say, I was watching, and I had my guys lined up there, and it was on station
7 or 8? Yeah.
8. It was 8. And I waited till the last person on the Super Squad 1A had finished, and I said, "Guys, just hold up a minute." I got on the radio and said, "Go." And you saw 3 or 4 buggies go out to the ones out in the open field and fill them up within 40 or 50 seconds, and they were on their way back. So I appreciate that. They did a great job. They did a really great job.
Sean and I were recording live the whole time that went on. And everybody listening, I'm going to tell you something right now. That's 800 targets that were loaded in 2 machines, and they had to drive out across the field, take the targets out of boxes, load those 2 machines. And Blaney couldn't get 4 tires, a windshield tear off, and 20 gallons of fuel as fast as 2 guys loaded 2 machines with 800 targets. Hats off to them.
Yeah.
And they didn't break any targets doing it, and they were out of the way. And I don't think the shooters waited more than a minute or maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like, and no discredit to any club out there. I know there's a lot of great staff, but that was incredible, Neil.
Yeah, they were absolute professionals.
Yeah, that was so. Hats off to you and your crew for that. That was incredible.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Jason.
So we're turning the corner here. So what went right, Neil? Let's talk about some statistics and stuff. We had a record number of new entries for the National Shooting Complex and the National Championship. Talk about what went right.
Well, like we said earlier on, it was a mixed bag. Really, everything went right on the positive side. I'm not talking about the rain or the mud or anything else like that. But the target presentations themselves on the main course were just where I thought that they would be. And it's funny. It's not funny, but it's real interesting when I look at the numbers because Mike Haas put in an astounding score on the very first day, he shot 74 on red. And I went, wow, that was good.
Yeah.
You know, and runner-up, Bain Horn shot a 75 on orange. So it's interesting to see Austin Kempstead shot a 74 on yellow. So the target presentations from the different guys were varied enough that obviously Mike Haas loved the target presentations on red, but he didn't like the others, funnily enough. You know, so the different target presentations depended, you either liked them or disliked them, depending on what you were probably used to shooting, maybe at your home club or what you'd practiced on or something like that. But it worked out especially good, and I got to take my hat off to Brandon and Madison for winning that. I thought Brandon shot remarkably well. My guess at a score was 285, 286, and he ended up on what, 287? Did he?
Yeah, that was incredible shooting. And Madison on the ladies' side, like you said. My goodness, that girl can get it done. I mean, I could not believe the scores that she put up. I mean, and again, in challenging conditions. And I mean, at one point, she was neck and neck with Karen Shedd, you know, halfway through the final day there on Sunday. But she pulled out ahead, and my goodness, I wish I had her ability. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it worked well. I would make a few changes next time. And although it was a large flight, like I say, there was 89, 90 people on it. And I'm going to try, for next year, the squad. I want the ladies' squads, the ladies' 2 super squads, and the guys' 2 super squads, both to start on station 1. Because as it laid out, I think the ladies started on either 6 or 7. Which
7,
made it difficult. 7, which made it just difficult to follow. I mean, there was a tremendous crowd out there watching the both sets of squads go round. But I would like next year to start them all on 1 and leave stations 2, 3, 4, and probably 5 empty. So that then, when whoever's filming it next year, both of the super squads sets finish on station 10.
Is there a possibility, Neil, to do it like they do in the World FITASC where everybody starts on 1, where the squads are starting like 5 minutes apart? Is there a possibility of that?
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm thinking that certainly just the super squad should start on 1 so that they finish on 10.
Okay, yeah, perfect. All right, now I'm reading what you're putting down.
Well, Neil, let me ask this. Other than that idea, what other changes can you, I mean, the mud and all that stuff aside, what other changes do you feel might be valid for next year? And then, you know, what steps do you feel like you need to do to try to fix some of the stuff that went sideways this year?
Well, that's a good question, Sean. I think to fix some of the things now, again, this is EC material. I think that we should be sending just emails into our delegates, our state delegates, that say, I was disappointed, there was mud, blah, blah, blah. Valid points. I don't want anybody moaning. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good to moan, but make valid points, send them in via email to delegates, then the delegates should pass all those emails on to the EC. Now, the EC is put there to help guide us along and get things done. At that point, then the EC should be, okay, we need to do something. We can't wait for next nationals to see if it rains. We've got to be next nationals. It's going to rain, whether it does or not is immaterial. But we've got to approach it that we're going to get rain. So I would really like to get everybody that went to nationals to email their delegate, and I know you two are delegates, so you better get busy.
Yeah, thanks for the blow-up of emails from everybody in the state of Ohio, Neil. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I got all kinds of free time.
Yeah, right. So, one of the things, Neil, I wanted to ask you was about the targets. I made a comment to you, and I'm sure you remember, when I was there, the green course was my favorite, even though I shot it the worst. Or scored it the worst, I should say. But those are my favorite targets all weekend. And do you think that level of difficulty needs to be there across all four courses? Because this is the national championship, and it being the biggest shoot in the country, do you think we need to get to that point to where all four courses are somewhat that level of difficulty?
And I agree with that. It's the national championship. When I get the guys together and we talk about, what we're going to set, how we're going to set it, our goal really is, apart from making, obviously, safety, sight, shootability, is to try and give a really broad representation of different types of target style. And that became really apparent on those four courses. And I think we spoke about it last time. I don't want to go to a shoot and shoot targets I've shot at my local club. I mean, I can do that. I can go to my local club. So I reiterate to the guys, let's try and put something on that some people, hopefully most people, have probably not seen before, whether it be, the report pairs, true pairs, whatever it might be. Doesn't have to be distance, but we can put some really acute angles on, some change in line and stuff like that, so that people go, wow, that was a good course. That really tested me. I really enjoyed shooting it. Whether they shot a high score or a mediocre score, if they come off there and went, wow, I really enjoyed that course, I think we've set it correct at that point in time.
Yeah. Well, Neil, you teased us the last time we had you on for the Nationals preview with some rule changes are coming. You want to tell us about those?
You've got to shoot a rabbit. If a rabbit's thrown in the air, you've got to shoot it in the air. If it rolls along the ground, you can't shoot it after it's been thrown in the air intentionally.
Okay.
If a standard target is thrown in the air, you can't shoot it on the ground once it lands. Coaching is not allowed, and it's just it's to save time. And unfortunately, we did have a couple of instances at nationals where the person shooting was told what to do, turned around and had a conversation with the person behind them, which sort of held up because now they were over the 20-second rule. So, and it's just, coaching is not allowed. If somebody stands at the back and goes, you're behind it, well, is that coaching? No, not really. Oh, you missed it in front. Or did I? Common sense, really.
Okay.
But that rule is in effect.
Okay.
And it's probably a good one. I mean, obviously, to keep the playing field fair, I think it's a good rule. But yeah, that's I guess there again we have that gray area where it's like, what is coaching? You know, if I asked Jason, was I in front of that or was I behind that? Is that coaching? And will I be called for that? Okay.
Yes.
Versus, well, no, you need to, you know, start at the back edge of the bird and pull through, swing to your lead, and then pull the trigger. That's a little more than coaching.
Yep. Change your foot position, change your hold point. You know, that's coaching. Are you going to be called if you turn around and say, was I behind that to your husband or to your son or whatever it might be? And he goes, yeah, you were behind it. Yeah. Is it coaching? Yes. Is somebody going to say something? No. I mean, it's not holding up your squad at all. It's where people get into a conversation about, okay, how do I attack this one, whatever it might be.
Well, when I'm in a tournament and I see someone stand in the cage with the person shooting and tell them how to hit the target, that's I think we've summed up this rule.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got to remember those two rules. The 20-second rule is really just to enhance the flow of the shoot. Again, at this Nationals, and we get them. I had a squad of 4 that just wanted to talk, and they were talking in a foreign language, so I couldn't understand what they were saying. But they would just talk after every shot, and it got so bad that the station in front of them was now empty. Well, as soon as I see that, I know we're going to run late because there should never be an empty squad for several minutes. Okay, there might be one for a minute or two while, but you know, people are pulling up. But so I had to have a word with them, and of course, they speak English. Okay, but they understood what I was saying because you know they managed to speed themselves up. Let's put it like that.
Gotcha.
Well, Neil, what else? Talk to us about Nationals.
Another little tidbit for you.
Okay.
I didn't actually disqualify anybody from the main event.
Oh, very nice.
Now, is that typical that you do each year?
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay.
Now get this. I disqualified 8 people from FITAS.
I can see that.
You can?
Well, I mean, if they're not following FITASC rules, you know, and there's a lot of people that don't shoot FITASC regularly.
Wait a minute, Neil.
Yeah.
Did Baltazar show up in his flip flops? We love you, Mark. Don't take that wrong, buddy.
No, I can see FITASC being a problem because, you know, there are probably people that went there, and there's people that always go to shoots that don't regularly shoot FITASC, and then obviously...
I'm not saying all of them, but there were certainly 4 that were intentional.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if you're going to go and shoot a sport, you should know the rules. Okay. One of the very first rules on the FITASC rule book is you can shoot any gun apart from a pump gun.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. So I had 2 people that decided they were going to shoot a pump gun.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the other rule is that you will shoot 1 ounce ammunition.
Yes, of course.
Well, and I'm not going to mention any names, but we had one guy with a secret pouch in his gun pouch, in his shell bag.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, with a little magnetic clip on the top, so it closed itself, so you couldn't see in it. So of course, guess what was in that little pouch?
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad, though. I mean, that's intentional, you know, cheating or tampering with the rules, and I understand that. But
the FITASC refs that we've got there are really professional at what they do. They're really very good, and typically when a new squad comes up for a new parkour, the first referee will say, "Okay, you got what shells have you got?" And they'll pull out 1 ounce shells. Well, yeah, they'll pull out 1 ounce shells. Then they'll go back to the buggy and put 1 1/8 in there.
Yeah.
So now they're shooting.
I was thinking more along the lines like, you know, so for instance, you're not supposed to pre-mount at all. I can see people that don't shoot FTAS regularly, and I even had it happen to me when I first started shooting.
Yeah.
You know, you get up there, you shoulder the gun to kind of look at the target. You're not supposed to do that. So I could definitely see that happening, but that's more accidental. I really didn't think you were going with the cheating whole.
But Sean, you're not going to get disqualified for that because we all do it.
Well, I hope not. I hope not. But
you'd be given a warning at that point. I mean,
yeah.
But you didn't have to disqualify anybody from the main event this year. That's amazing.
No, and I thought that was pretty good. And none of the other events only had disqualifications on the FTAS event, which is unusual in the fact that years prior, I don't think we've disqualified anybody in FTAS.
Wow.
Yeah. But there was another one I just quickly got to tell you about. I happened to be there on Station 13 on Supersport, and that was the one out in the meadow there. And there was a lady getting ready to shoot, and she went, "Ow!" She said, I just got shot. I said, "You did?" And then me going, "Oh my God, where'd that come from?" And the shot fell on the floor, and she picked it up, and I went, "Oh, is that the shot that just hit you?" She said, "Yeah." She handed it to me, and I went, "Wow, that's a little bit bigger than a 7.5."
Oh,
so I mic'd
no.
it. Yeah, I mic'd it, and it was a 5.
Oh no.
Yeah, and so I was going, as somebody loaded shells with 5s, because that goes a lot more than 300 yards, of course.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, after a little bit of investigation, apparently it was somebody that thought they needed to shoot 5s at ZZ Bird.
Oh, for crying out loud.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I never did find out who did it, but I knew where it come from.
Oh, jeez.
So that was just a shout out to everybody. It's dangerous to shoot anything larger than a 7.5. We know we've got a shot full distance, a maximum of 300 yards, so it's safety, and just bear that in mind.
Well, I mean, look, statistically, this is the safest sport in the world. We don't need somebody to ruin that statistic by doing something they don't need to do.
Right. That's
True.
That's just asinine. I don't even understand the logic behind that.
True. Yeah, I got a question for you two.
Certainly.
And what did you think of the targets this year, mains and other events that you shot?
I really enjoyed the K-Cup. I really enjoyed the K-Cup targets, even slogging through the mud and all that stuff. I thought the targets were fantastic on the K-Cup. I thought the main was very fair. Obviously, the green course, like Jason said, was probably my favorite. Although, I will say, me and Jason shot the green course in the morning of the day of the Super Squad. So we had favorable conditions, low wind, good visibility. So again, it's a testament to the level of those shooters that shot the Super Squad, that they were able to hit what they hit, because honestly, it was a challenging course to begin with. When you throw Mother Nature in there, throwing all the wind and the darkness and the clouds, that made it even more challenging. But overall, yeah, I think everything was good targets. I don't think there was anything I can really complain about. But the K-Cup, I really enjoyed the targets on the K-Cup. Jason?
I absolutely love the targets at Nationals. All 4 courses of the main. I thought the Super Sporting was super fun. I honestly did. Had a great time on those targets. The K-Cup, those targets were, I thought, awesome.
They were great.
My personal performance, my personal shooting, we had just go ahead and better talk about Mr. Rogers or something else, of more entertainment. Sean and I go to the Nationals for the experience, not for putting up a number or trying to compete, because, well, let's just face it, that's where we're at. But I really enjoyed the targets. The targets were awesome. Really enjoyed the cocktail hour. That's where I'm master class. The Top Gun shootout, the North versus South, was a lot of fun. I think it was more fun this year. I don't know why, just the atmosphere. It was more fun this year than in years past. It seems to only grow. The crowd was really, really, really involved and engaged on Friday night at the Top Gun shootout. I thought that was a lot of fun. course, love seeing the vendors, love seeing our personal sponsors. Little personal selfish plug there, Neil. But I really enjoyed, overall, the experience was, even though we had some negatives in there, I think the experience overall was awesome. And, of course, I always look forward to going back next year.
Good. Well, and I appreciate that, because obviously I don't get up there to the party evenings and stuff like that. We set the targets obviously for North, South, and Top Gun, and keep watch over that to make sure that goes off smooth. But really I didn't get time to get involved in the parties or the dinners or the food from the food vendors or anything like that. I know you guys talk to a lot of people, and I've added a question to the survey this year that's up there for everybody to fill out, about whether we want to continue having the super final Sunday course a tad harder than the other 3 courses. Now, we've done it for the past 2 years. It was green last year, which is yellow, of course. And it was on green this year, which I did, of course. Have you had any feedback from people that they like that type of format, or would they rather have all courses at the same difficulty?
You know what, Neil? That's a very good question. All the comments that we have had have not revolved around target difficulty. So I tell you what, let's do, Sean. Let's throw a poll up on our Facebook public group page.
Yep.
Let's do that. And Neil, I hope you'll be engaged in that. We'd love to see you involved. We're gonna, on our Dead Pair public group page on Facebook, we're going to throw a poll up and ask about the target difficulty across the courses, and do you think it should be ramped up for the green course on Sunday? Am I saying that correct, Neil?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And it's, it is a little bit more difficult. The highest score on the green course was a 70, and that was done by Todd Hitch. So there was only 170, and I'm pretty sure Brandon could have broke a 70 or a 71 on it if he didn't have tears in his eyes at the end there.
Yeah.
He got very emotional. I thought it was great, him winning. I really did. So he could have had a 70. So if we look at it from that perspective, we were probably 4 or 5 targets more difficult on the green course than the other 3 courses. So I'd be interested in feedback on that, because if people don't like it, the majority of people don't like it, then we can revert back next year to having 4 courses, similar levels.
Well, I told you, Neil, while we were there, I enjoyed the green course. I wish that all 4 courses could be at that level, because it was, like I said, again, it's the national championship. But that's just me. I'm just one person. Yep. There's 2,800 other people there. So let's do this poll, and let's see what everybody else thinks. And then hopefully you can take that back to the NSCA, Neil, and base the targets off that next year.
Share the numbers with you, and then that way you can take some honest feedback.
Yeah, perfect. And then I added one more question onto the survey because I wanted feedback, and nobody will have noticed. I asked a question on target color. And it's always a contentious sort of question, and I don't think anybody will have noticed, but there were no all-orange targets this year, none whatsoever.
Really?
That's almost a personal preference. And the reason I left all-orange out is because of there was no... If you wanted to throw orange now, you had to throw top, because that shows up a lot better than the underneath side of an all-orange target. So
agreed.
If the guys wanted to throw a low target, I asked them to keep top visible, obviously, because we had no orange underneath. But orange underneath is a terrible target to throw, especially in bright sunlight, because it's in its own shadow. So it never shines bright orange. It can never do that. So we left them out because in years past, it's always caused problems at certain times of the day when an orange bottom is more difficult to see. So I added that question if people noticed a better visibility of targets with the targets that we use.
Neil, we're going to put that poll up for you. Anything else we can do to help? Please don't hesitate to contact us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. I just got a couple of other things to mention as well, Jason, if that's okay with you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, come on.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the team, the target setters, the office staff, Pete's maintenance team, and everybody else. And a special, I want to give a shout out to Casey and Score Chaser. And you guys never hear us on the radio back to registration. But the typical call we get is somebody will come up and go, where do I start?
Yeah.
They've got their paperwork in their hand and they're on the red course and they should be on the yellow course or whatever it might be. And Casey and her team did a great job. I mean, a quick call on the radio, registration. Within 2 seconds, she was back. Shoot a number, so-and-so and so. Where does he start? He should be on red 1, whatever it might be. It was really a great job that she did.
Yeah.
And did you hear about Big Mike from Red Oak?
No. What was going on there?
Well, he had a terrible accident with a tree stand, and I just want to give a shout-out to him and his family, just to let him know that we're all thinking about him. He's in hospital with various wounds.
Oh, geez.
And it's just really, he set targets. He's a great target setter, and he's been down to Nationals and Texas State to set targets with us, and I just want to let him know that we're thinking about him and our prayers and thoughts are with him. And his family.
That's terrible. We'll definitely give our thoughts and prayers as well, Neil.
Yeah. Is there anything else from you guys that I can fill you in on? I'm sure, we could probably do another hour or so's worth.
Yeah, I mean, I would say easily all three of us could sit down and powwow for probably a whole evening, especially if we had a bottle with some brown liquor in it to speed things along. But, overall, I mean, again, the weather issue aside, I mean, it was the Nationals. I thought people, for the most part, were in good spirits. I thought people were excited. The vendors seemed to be very pleased that we talked to about the amount of people coming in and out of the vendor booths, which is important because they, again, are the ones that support everything that goes on there. Overall, I think it was a good experience, but again, as we talked about it on this podcast, I think there's some room for improvement. There's some room for things to be fixed or changed moving forward, and definitely having some kind of a contingency plan at the ready should something like this happen again.
Totally agree with that, Sean. I mean, from my perspective, disregarding the rain and the mud, the shoot was very successful. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
Everything ran according to plan, and we were no more than 10 minutes late. I think was the latest that we started a flight, so that was good. AFS was good. That was full. People enjoyed that. We had a full crew on the Ladies Open on their 50-bird shoot. We set the targets really nice and steady for them, and we had 250 straights from ladies on that course, so they really enjoyed it. 410, 28 shot easy. I'm hoping that the 410 people had a great time on that. There was a lot better scores on that this year than there was last year, and that kudos goes to Jason for setting that course. He did a really good job on that. So, like I say, disregarding the rain and the mud, I think it was a very successful shoot.
Yep, I agree.
Well, Neil, we can't wait to get back down there again next year. I mean, I know this year had its challenges for sure, and I hope it doesn't discourage anyone. We're talking about some of these negatives that went on, but overall, this is our national championship. This is our most coveted shoot of the year, and I just can't push everyone enough to give it a try. If you haven't been down there to the national championship at the National Shooting Complex, I mean, this is where it's all at.
Yeah, please don't let our comments about the issues with the weather and the mud and everything deter anybody. I mean, again, this is more the exception than the rule.
Right.
And that's the honest to God truth. However, I think it is productive to sit down and discuss.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did that. Yeah,
what can be done and what some of the issues were. I mean, a little bit of this podcast may have been a bit of a gripe session to a certain degree, but again, if you're gonna try to make things better, you need to sit down and talk about it and make a plan and move forward. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Neil, like I said, this is the biggest shoot in the United States, if not the world, and hats off to you and everybody at the NSCA and the NSC and the National Shooting Complex for pulling off a shoot in the absolute worst conditions. By God, you did it.
Yeah. I'm glad we pulled it off, and I thought, I'm glad we pulled it off in a way that we did. But there's room for improvement. Like I say, the Super Squad thing, I want to know if people like that. Like you said, we'll do a poll.
Yeah.
There's just little bits there. Do they want it easier? Do they want it harder? Were they just right? And I suggest that anybody that gets a chance that was there to fill in the survey, because I get the results or the data back from that survey. A lot of questions on there I'm not too interested in, but I'm certainly interested in the question on target difficulty, the Super Squad setup. Do we want the green course to be that little bit harder? And that's all valuable information for me getting ready to plan for next year.
Now, I will tell you that not only am I renting a golf cart next year, I'm also renting a pontoon boat just in case. But Neil, thank you so much for spending some time with us, giving us your honest feedback. We cannot thank you enough for that. We appreciate it very much. And remember, if there's anything that you or the NSCA needs, you have an open platform here. Call us anytime. We'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely.
Well, I thank you guys. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and I know we get some points across, and I agree with some of your points, and I disagree with some of your points. But it's always an opinion, and it's always thoughtful, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, Neil, again, a great big thank you to you. It was great talking to you down there, and we look forward to seeing you next year and excited to come back to the Nationals.
Okay. Cut.
Well, Sean, you heard from the man himself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, lots of things to talk about for Nationals. It was a unique situation, and we had not experienced that before. A lot of people had not experienced that before. But, like we said, you have to have the conversation. You have to have the conversation. You have to point some things out. Painful as it may be to call that out, if you truly love and respect the sport, we can do better. We can do better.
No matter what went wrong, no matter what went right, there's always room for improvement.
Correct.
So
correct.
I think that's what this was all about. It wasn't a whining, complaining session. It was more of a constructive criticism. What can we do to make it right type thing. So, listen, there's obviously clubs that are nicer in features, I guess you could say, but you have to understand the National Shooting Complex is where our national championship is held, and it is what it is, and how can we make it better? That's all this was all about.
Exactly. And hopefully nobody takes it the wrong way. Again, not trying to be a gripe session, although the reason why it maybe came off like that is because we have heard so much feedback. I mean, it's not like it's one or two people. I mean, this was something that affected every shooter that was there for the last 4 or 5 days of the shoot.
Yeah, and I don't want this to discourage anyone. If you've never been to the national championship, this was a one-off problem. It happens, the last time it happened was 8 years ago. So, but the National Shooting Complex is trying to fix it. Neil's doing everything he can to fix it. You can write to your delegates. We've already discussed that. Sean and I are going to get blown up with emails. But you can write to your delegates. They can take it to the executive council, and they can make corrective actions. But don't let this discourage you. If you've never been there, I mean, there's nothing bigger or better than the national championship.
Yeah, this was the exception, not the rule, and that's the point we're trying to make out. So if you guys went and shot the Nationals, you probably have already gotten the email from the NSCA about the review and
survey.
The survey. Take time to fill that out. Put your honest feedback in there. That way it gets back to them. And if there's an overwhelming theme of, hey, we need to never let this happen again, then hopefully they'll be forced to take action and make it right in the future. Yeah.
Speaking of making right, we got some sponsors that really have done us right this year.
Yep.
Elite Shotguns. You go to our YouTube channel, you'll see we did a quick little video interview with Elite Shotgun. Well, with all of our sponsors.
Yes.
We talked about some gun fit things and some things that they do to help you when you're purchasing your new shotgun. EliteShotguns.com. Thank you very much to those guys. We love Elite, and we can't thank them enough.
Right, and another big sponsor, Fiocchi USA. Big shout out to Holly and everybody. We had a great time down there at the Fiocchi team meeting. Great people, great ammunition. Big things coming for them in the future.
And awesome family.
Yes, definitely.
Bear Pelt. Thank you very much to Bear Pelt Vests. It's not just your vest, Sean Elliott, it's your new uniform.
That's right. And hey, we had a lot of fun hanging out with the guys at Atlas Traps. I mean, honestly, Scott and Chad and everybody that was in there that just made it so much fun. I learned a lot being in that room, and really have a lot more respect for the traps and the machines they build than I had before. So.
And very, very big thank you to John Johnston, that runs the store there at the NSC, excuse me, for Atlas Traps. Thank you for all the hospitality.
Yeah, definitely. And big thanks to RE Ranger. We love the glasses, love the React lenses. They were fantastic in all the lighting conditions down there in Texas.
And Odo Pro Technologies. Now, I know the girls couldn't be there. They tried very hard to get there, but just schedule conflicts, couldn't make it. Had a big talk with Dr. Grayson. I think we're going to start seeing their presence at shoots a little bit more than what we have in the past.
That's awesome.
You understand that they're, hearing protection is more than just shooting. It's so many other industries, and they're involved in so many things, but they're going to start making a little bit more bigger presence at shoots. So hats off to those girls. Thank you very much for sending that set of Sound Gear Phantoms to the Dead Pair Blast at Vero Beach.
Well, one people you couldn't miss at the Nationals was the Rhino guys.
Oh, my gosh.
You can't miss the Rhino rig. We talked to all those guys, Scott, Jody, Matt. They were busy.
Yes, they were. And don't forget about the shoot they're having at Blackjack Sporting Clays. Very big shoot, very good cause. Donate if you can't make it. Again, the links are right down in the show description. Get in on that.
Yep. And a big shout out to Dawn Grant. Had a meeting with her about my journey with her program. Fantastic lady. If you guys need some extra help on the mental side of things, Dawn is the person to talk
thanks
to.
for taking my time at the National.
Hey, I just slipped in first, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. I hear you. I need way more help than you do. Okay. Vero Beach Clay Shooting. Again, this is tied in with the Elite boys and girls. Can't thank them enough, man. They have been a huge supporter of our show. Love their club. Of course, the Dead Pair Blast, December 1st and 2nd. If you're not signed up, you're not going to be there. You're making a huge mistake. You need to get there.
Yep, definitely. And another big shout out to White Flyer. Heck, we break 2.3 million? Is that what he said?
I don't know, dude, but that's...
It was a lot of targets, let's put it that way. And everybody had a heck of a time out there breaking White Flyer targets at the National.
Absolutely. Not only did this sponsor right here have everything to do with you signing up for the Nationals, but also brought you live scoring during the entire Super Squad event. Casey Chase and all the people at Score Chaser, cannot thank them enough. So awesome to be involved with such a great organization. Thank you very much to Casey Chase and everybody at Score Chaser. Sean Alley, we walked in the door at registration. You did not spend not even 5 minutes in there.
No.
Not only did you have your entire packet, you were paid up in full. All of, of course, we registered ahead of time, but all of your options were paid for in cash. They were all done. You were out the door in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, it ran like a Swiss watch.
Swiss watch wishes it could run as good as Score Chaser. So, John Elliott, we tell everybody every week,
take somebody shooting, get out there, have some fun. This is a great sport. We're going to keep supporting everything and everybody that goes out there and tries to get a gun in somebody's hand. Break some targets, have some fun.
Take them to a tournament.
Yeah, take them to a tournament, take them to a charity shoot, and definitely put it on your bucket list that you got to visit the Nationals.
And he's looking at me with a blank stare.
And I don't know, I can't read your mind, so I've never been good at it.
What's the second best of the Nationals? The Dead Pro Blast at Vero Beach.
Well, you already mentioned that, but yeah, we can repeat that again.
I mean, it's Florida in December. What's wrong with that?
It's not a tough sell.
Okay,
It's not a tough sell.
all right. I'm just saying. Hey, all right. Enough of your tomfoolery, Mr. Alley. Until next week.
We'll catch you all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotguns and Vero Beach Clay Shooting and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Special thanks to the following sponsors: Bear Pelt, Rhino, Otopro, Dawn Grant, Atlas Trap Company, RE Ranger, and White Flyer Targets.